First of all, thank you so much for coming to Chicago. It's wonderful to have you here.
シカゴに来てくださってありがとうございます。
こちらこそ。
本当に光栄です。
We tried to bring you here in 2020 with this similar type of project to celebrate you and your career, but of course the pandemic hit, so it's amazing to make it happen now. So it's especially meaningful for us in the 60th anniversary to have you here because was it 30 years ago that you won the top prize with your first feature, Maboroshi? And having you as a Gold Hugo winner so early in your career has been so meaningful to us. So we're really thrilled to not only have shown Maboroshi as your first feature, which won an award, but to have shown a total of 9 films since then. So I guess we presented you with a Career Achievement Award this year at our 60th anniversary. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you or how that feels?
はい、そうですね。壇上でもちょっとお話ししましたけど、30年近くこの仕事をしてきて、厚労省多分4回目ぐらいなんですよ、いただくの、いろんな映画祭で。こう一緒に、映画祭と一緒に自分がキャリアを重ねてきたなって思う映画祭からやはりお声掛けをいただくので、そういう意味で言うととても感慨深いですね。プサンもそうですし、サンセバスチャンもそうなんですけども、こちらでも今9本と聞いてもう半分以上なので、本当に光栄に思ってます。まだまだ頑張ります。
So we had the pleasure of presenting 7 of your films this year as part of the retrospective, 6 to the general public and 1 to a group of students at the University of Chicago. And one of the things that I think was a pleasant surprise for me as a programmer, as the artistic director, was that the audience in each of the screenings was very young. I would say at least 75 to 80% of the audience seemed to be under 30. And I was wondering, which was a pleasant surprise for us because I love the idea that the next generation, the new generation is discovering your work. Could you talk a little bit about kind of thinking about how a new generation has the chance to see your work and their response to it?
そうね。あまり自分の作品を見直さないので、見返さないので、本当に忘れてることがすごく多いんですよ。良くも悪くも。なのでラストだけでも見直さないと自分をその映画を作った時のにこう戻れないので、それでちょっとだけ必ず見るようにしてるんですけど、あまりもう考えなくなってることだけど、その海辺と雨が好きですねみたいなこと言われると、確かにそうだよなっていう、こう改めて自分が何を映画の中で描いてきたのかっていうのを見つめ直すきっかけにはなりますね。ちょっと恥ずかしいですけどね。
I'm going to talk a little bit about the body of work as a whole. Throughout your career, you've started to work with the same actors over again, and many reappear in your films, like Lily Frankie or Kirin Kiki, or more recently Ando Sakura. I was wondering if you could talk. A lot of the moderators have asked you during the Q&As about your process, and everybody's fascinated by the idea that you're consistently or constantly rewriting, even as you're shooting, both in pre-production and then as you're shooting. But I'm wondering, now that you return to work with a lot of the same actors, how does that change your process, or does it change your process? Are you writing specifically for certain actors, or that's my question, I guess. Yeah.
変わらないかな。やり方自体は変わってないな。
Okay. I think in a lot of the Q&As, and then if you read a lot of how kind of people who write about your work think about it, is there's constantly this reference to the idea of the family and the concept of the family that you return to. And then in one of your Q&As, you mentioned the fact that the way that you depict the family or the possibility of a family unit has changed over time because your own kind of perception or thoughts about family has changed over time. So that's one theme that I think is often drawn out when people talk about your work or ask about your work. I guess I'm wondering, are there other themes that you feel are run through your work that maybe don't get the same kind of attention as the question of the family?
それとも全部家族ですか？
Yeah.
正直言うと家族を描いてきてるという自分の実感はそんなにないんだよね。家族の作家だって言われるとそんなに本当にって思いますけど、今自分でだからあまり自分が何を描いてきたかっていうのを分析して何か今後じゃあこういうことをやってみようかみたいな、じゃあ違うことをしてみようみたいなことをなるべくしないんですけど、ただそうは言ってもこう俯瞰して見ていくと多分捨てられた子供の話が好きなんだよね。親がいなくなった後の子供を描いてるな定期的にと思うから多分その捨て子は好きなんじゃない、家族というのは。そこはスピルバーグと一緒なんじゃない、そこには関心があるの。だからそれをその家族の中でやればそういうことになるだろうし、歴史的に見れば今多分やろうと思ってるものの中にはその帰民政策っていう国が国民を捨てるっていうそういうことをやってみたいな、それを題材にしてやってみたいなと思っているんです。もうこの15年ぐらい実現しないんだけど、それをやろうと思います。この60代で必ず。
So I don't know if you remember, but in 2020 we did an online interview when we knew that you couldn't come, and I asked you a question because it's something I've noticed always in your films that I love is the presence of the train and as a device. And I think that especially in urban Japan, trains are always kind of present or part of the landscape, but the way in which you use the train as a device caught my attention. And I was wondering if you could just talk again a little bit about kind of your relationship to trains or the way that you think about using them in your films, or how conscious are you of that? Even again in last year's film Monster, just the train is like this liminal space of escape and fantasy, the interior of the old train, which is really beautiful.
僕は車の免許を持っておりませんで、なので車のシーンをあまりリアルに描けないんです。特に運転席にいる人間とかをあまり描いたことがなくて、撮り方にあんまり車撮るの好きじゃないんですけど、電車は乗るのも見るのも撮るのも好きですね。理由を聞かれるとすごく困るんですけど、すごく電車の好きなミュージシャンがいて、一度お仕事をご一緒したんです。奇跡という映画で、あれも電車がテーマでした。でそのくるりの岸田君って言うんですけど、もうとにかく電車好きで、彼曰く電車の魅力というのは自分のものにならないところだってもうはっきりしていて、すごい大金持ちになれば飛行機も自分のものになるし、どんな豪華な車も買えるけど、電車はやっぱり自由にならないで、時刻表があってそれに沿って動くからやっぱ自由に動かせない、そこが魅力だって言われて、なるほどな、面白いなと思ったんですよね。僕はそこまで分析してませんけれども特になんだろうな、飛行機だと車窓って描きようがないので、基本的には大事故が起きたりして爆発しない限りあまり変わらないから、電車が一番、特に日本の電車ってすごく豊かなんですよ、窓外が。 韓国行って思いましたけど、風景そんなに変化ないんですよ。地方と都市ぐらいの違いしかなくて、日本ほどやっぱり地域によって窓外の風景が変わるって結構やっぱポイント高いなと思ってます。なのでなるべくなんか移動のシーンがあったらなるべくバスでも車でもなくて、電車があるんだったら電車っていう風にしてます。
It's something that I love. Just the detail of it always. Yeah.
ありがとうございます。
I'll ask one more question. So, even if we see these themes that travel throughout your film, you've broken new ground, I think, in the way in which you're willing to take the risk to shoot in in France with French actors, and then also in Korea with Korean actors, and many directors who make a film in a language that isn't their own. There's often something that you feel it in it, but I think both of these films, The Truth and Broker, are such beautiful films, and there isn't that sense of distance that often exists, like I said, with the language barrier. So congratulations on that. But what I'm curious about is, are there new places that you would like to go, or you talked a little bit about this already, but new ground that you would like to break in your filmmaking? So we gave you a Career Achievement Award, and you said, 30 years doesn't seem like a career, but let's look 30 more years from now and see what it is. So I guess the question is about what types of films or what type of ground would you like to break in thinking about making cinema moving forward?
そうですね。フランス、韓国と撮ってみて、できたこととできなかったこと、収穫と反省と両方あるので、まだ 100% その言語の違いを乗り越えられたかっていうとそうでもないから、課題を克服しながらもう一回チャレンジしてみたいなと思ってますけども、それはアメリカでやってみたい企画がある、それを5年以内にやりたいというのが一つと、もう一つは、ずっとやりたいと思っている日本のその、戦争の加害責任の問題を、ちゃんとしたエンターテインメントの中でやりたいっていう、その、具体的にちょっと満州の話をやりたいなと思っていて、そこで日本が何をしたのか、そのことをきちんとちゃんと向き合ったものを作ってみたいなというのが、ここから5年の間にやりたいと思っている大きな2つです。
Great. Well, we look forward to seeing both of those films, and maybe think about coming to shoot in Chicago.
シカゴでね、はい、ぜひそういうチャンスがあれば。
Thank you so much for coming to Chicago, for coming to the festival, for the warm interaction that you've had with so many of our audiences. We're really appreciative and just are so grateful and honored to have had you here these several days.
ありがとうございます。パンデミックでなんか頓挫しかけたんですけど、いい形でまたここにやってくることができましたので、また新作で呼んでいただければなと思います。ありがとうございました。今回本当に国際交流基金とアナの共催公演があって実現しているので、本当に引き続きよろしくお願いします。ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much. どうも。